again. Michael Ware with the Iowa Firearms Coalition. We're here today on Warrior Wednesday with Paige Roux. That is the proper pronunciation, yes?
It is, yes. Good job.
All right. Now, some of you may remember her. She came to Iowa not that long ago, spoke at Second Amendment Day, and was in the Capitol building. Do you remember any of that, or was it a whirlwind?
Oh my gosh, that was my first speaking event with Turning Point USA, and it was a whirlwind, and it was cold, and not a lot of people knew, but I think my flight got delayed because of snow. So I do remember it, and I would love to come back to Iowa. You all were really great.
Very kind. Thank you. Everybody that's ever been here for Second Amendment Day at the Capitol says something eerily similar. My flight was horrendous. And oh, by the way, it was -30. So it's not all, I promise, Paige, it's not always like that here. But when we have our Second Amendment days, and they have to be in February because of when our legislature is in session, it's a tough time of year, no doubt.
Yeah. Well, and we have one here in Arizona, but I've brought, to the people who plan our Second Amendment Day, they call it a 2A rally here. And it's very different to how Iowa does it. And I love how Iowa does it. I think it's so professional, respectful. It has an agenda, a purpose. So I've brought examples of you guys need to do it like them because it's honestly great.
Well, that's very kind. Thank you. We seek to do it well, but there's always room for improvement. And when I visit with people about the Second Amendment, how they advocate, it's good to swap stories because the fact of the matter is, I know as a long-term trainer, I'm sure that you have picked up things from other trainers or decided to maybe drop things out of your tool bag in place for other stuff. So I think it's good when we collaborate and see how others do it to make sure we're doing the best for the membership, because really, that's who IFC seeks to truly represent, is our membership, and we need to do it well for them. So if we can elevate our game, great, we should do that. Same thing, with trainers are like, listen, the person paying for the training, the student themselves are who I need to focus on right here, and so I want to do well by them. So it's the same everywhere.
Exactly.
So let me share your site up onto the page. And for those of you listening only, it's somechickWhoShoots.com.
Yep.
Okay, so how did we get here? How did you start, Paige? Why don't you walk us through what made you want to start doing this?
So we're actually going through a rebrand right now. My next meeting is tomorrow. But I'll tell you how I became Some Chick Who Shoots. My family owns 3 indoor shooting ranges in Phoenix, Arizona called Shooters World. And the best way I can explain it is I was a girly girl raised in the gun world. I did dance, gymnastics. I was an absolute girly girl. And on the weekends, I would wear pink Converse, and my dad got me a pink Walther 22 to wear on my hip with a pink holster. And I was 8 years old. It was unloaded, but he would put it on my side and I would pass out range passes, and I made cash on the weekends as an 8 to 10 year old. Fast forward, I would work on the weekends. My dad was single at the time and he would train. I watched my dad teach, but he was working mostly with law enforcement and military. So naturally he was like, I don't have daycare, so you're coming with me, you and your brother. So I would run these military law enforcement classes and outshoot a lot of the law enforcement officers. And I was 12 to 14 years old and I had no idea. I was just like, oh, I'm just here. I might as well shoot. And so that was my childhood. I never had a desire to be in the gun world or in the gun industry. But I just naturally loved the culture and I loved working with my family. I loved our ranges. And so it's always been part of me. I've tried to go off and try other things. I actually went to school to be a wedding planner, which is kind of funny. So I went to ASU, and in my senior year, it was 2020, and I was about to start my senior year, like I said, but also my internship, and I was working at a very high level, very nice resort in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I was teaching at the time as well. And my parents were like, hey, all of these people are buying guns because of 2020. Everything is shutting down. Events are going away. College is getting weird. So I took a break from college, and overnight I became a full-time instructor instead of a part-time instructor working for them. And that really just kind of fast-tracked my entire career, and I never looked back. I became some chick who shoots. The reason why I named myself that was because of the wedding industry. I didn't have my name publicly on social media at all because I didn't want people to search my name from the wedding side and see the gun advocacy side, and kind of alienate my audience there. And so I didn't want that to conflict with like any job opportunities, especially from the hospitality side. So that's why I'm some chick who shoots.
Well, it's kind of funny. Okay, so let me ask you this: are you married now?
I am married now.
Were you the the quintessential bridezilla for your wedding planner, or were you not?
So and coming from me, you're going to be like, well, you're just tooting your own horn. But I planned my whole wedding. It was so much fun. And I had all of my vendors reach out and say, this was the best or one of the best weddings we've ever had. I wasn't stressed one bit. The day before our wedding, we had 60-mile-an-hour winds and we had an outdoor wedding. We had a tent that like a massive, like 3,000 square foot tent that almost flew away. And I was like, whatever happens, it's fine. Grab me, whatever, it's fine. So, no, we had a wonderful wedding. I am grateful that I am not doing it as a full-time job. It was fun one time, but no, I don't think I was a bridezilla. I wouldn't count myself as one.
Well, fantastic. I'm tickled. My sister went to school for events planning. Didn't end up in that arena, so to speak. But I asked her at one point, I'm like, I've been part of a few events that I guess I've been instrumental in planning and helping execute. And I told her, I said, these are exceedingly hard. This is like chaos all the time. Are you sure that this is what you want to do? Oh, yes, it'll be fine. I thrive in that environment. Well, it didn't take her long actually, I think she went to the internship stage, and she interned and did some of that stuff and said, you know what? I'm quite willing to find something else if it exists. And off she went. So it may not be for everyone, but
and you have to
I'm
work.
glad you made it here.
You have to work weekends. Like you never have free weekends. It's constant buildup. I'm glad that I am where I'm at. It has helped me on the instructor world though, because in 2020, like I said, events went away. And because I became a full-time instructor with my parents and during COVID, I was working, I was teaching like full-time, and instructing full-time is crazy taxing. But when you're doing 40 hours a week of instructing on range brand new shooters, it ages you. And so I was doing that. And because I have the event planning side and I have the experience doing it of like managing almost like chaos, and making sure that everything, all of the what ifs are handled beforehand, or that you can look forward and like kind of foreshadow what's going to happen, has helped me substantially in teaching new shooters of, okay, what are all the what ifs that can happen, and let's dissect those before they actually do happen. And so managing a range, I feel very strong and very comfortable at, no matter the number of students. So I am grateful for that.
I can see how those would work together. It wouldn't be something that I would ordinarily sit back and tie together, but it all does work. I see what you're saying. And I haven't been an all day teacher, so I don't think that I should jump into saying that I have a personal relate or something as disrespectful as I understand, because I don't think that I do. But I can tell you that from doing things with our men's ministry and teaching Sunday school and some of those other things on an adult level, I get done with a really challenging class that only takes 45 minutes or an hour. And I'm like, I need a nap. My wife's like, if you fall asleep in church again, we're going to have a talk. And I'm like, I'm absolutely spent after this class. I can barely stay awake. Yeah. And it wasn't because the pastor wasn't fantastic. That was great. But Sunday school was before, the service was after. And I'm like, oh, I'm dying. I don't know if I can do this. So it takes it out of you. And then to do that all day. And Arizona's got better weather year round than Iowa, but it also is pretty warm. So I'll give you an idea. Okay, so how long does a class take usually?
Mine are 6 hours.
Okay, how come not 8 or 10?
Women, I train mostly women and I train mostly new shooters. And so I have done 8 hour classes. I've done 36-hour classes, but I know their threshold, and 6 hours is also pushing it for them. 4 hours is technically the sweet spot.
Yeah.
I push it to 6 because I can't get enough content in 4 hours. So we do 6, but that is capped with lunch because of my clientele.
Yes, I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
I was hoping that you'd answer that way, because the fact of the matter is, it takes a tremendous amount of stamina to keep going that length of time. And
Mhm.
people are listening to this who haven't done much training, who haven't, or maybe haven't done any, and they're saying, "Oh, 8 hours doesn't sound like that big a deal." Yeah, it is.
Mhm.
It certainly is. It's mentally taxing. It's physically taxing. It does take it out of you, especially if you're applying yourself.
Exactly. And I've done plenty of classes where, it's 8 to 10 hour days, and that's great, but I'm the only female in it. And my goal is to get more women into training and making them feel comfortable, and working with also high level instructors who do high level training groups. They want more women in there too. And I'm like, this is why you're not getting enough women. It's because of XYZ. And so my classes, I definitely kind of going from that event planning side of like, okay, how often do we need breaks? What is this segment? You need to read your room. And so I'm in this transitional phase right now in my brand, where I want to start training other instructors and mentoring them, because we need more female instructors out there. I have developed a great plan. I'm not saying I have the best plan, but I have a lot of experience and a lot of hours behind it. And I would love to share it with other people so that they can create their instructor group as well, because there were 40 or 30 million new first-time gun owners between
Mhm.
2020 and 2023. And
Mhm.
I can't teach 40 million people. So we need more instructors, more good instructors.
Well, I question your dedication. Okay. Well, okay. So, okay, you've touched on something, but you haven't actually said it. And we do a pretty good job on IFC's Warrior Wednesday of exploring things. So, what is the disconnect, if we want to call it that, or maybe you have a better way of explaining it? But what is the disconnect between female students and an instructor of either sex, or women students and male instructors? What's the problem there?
Honestly, I think there's the one obvious one of different genders, and you all learn and teach differently, and that's something that you cannot control. But I've seen plenty of amazing male instructors teach all women's classes. And I think the biggest thing is that I have noticed, even when co-teaching with other male instructors, is there's just like a power imbalance of your stories. Like, you have to think and put yourself in your students' shoes. So even I know I do it with my students when I train men. Like, I don't talk about purses and hair, but I have different analogies for women to help them understand. And I talk to them like, not like I'm an instructor. I wear clothing that presents myself as an equal to them rather than I am your superior. It's just,
Mhm.
hey, we are girls, and we're gonna do some cool stuff today.
Yeah.
And I think when women are even in, co-ed classes, or there's a male instructor, there is that like, I got to wear a polo and tactical pants, and it's such a barrier for women. It makes us feel so turned off by it, and it's like a wall is immediately drawn up, and it's intimidating, and then we're not able to receive the information. And so it's simple things just to kind of soften the environment, to make them feel more welcome and make them feel more welcome into learning in that environment as well. We do this in my family's ranges. They start at the entrance. They make sure that there is a welcome desk and apparel, because those things are a soft entrance to welcome someone into, okay, now I'm ready to look at firearms, or now I'm ready to look at the holsters. But it's that soft transition that we need to have. And I think that's where that imbalance is when men are teaching, they really want to establish themselves of a superior, and not in a bad way, but hey, I have a law enforcement background, or I have a military background, or I've been teaching for this long, in that introduction even. And as a woman, we're just like, I don't feel comfortable. I don't belong here. I don't resonate with you. I could easily do the same thing where I say, I've been teaching for this long. I work with military and law enforcement. Like, I'm this, I'm that. Well, now I've disconnected from my student. And so how I do intros is we sit down, like I make sure the girls have coffee and we start with them. I say, I want to get to know you, and then you can get to know me. And that we really just like break the ice and get to know the group first. And then I give little anecdotes when they're talking about themselves and their family. And then there's girls who will be like, oh, I do that too. Or, oh my gosh, you're part of that running crew. Like yeah, me too. Or I want to get into that. And so now we're creating a bond without establishing without bringing firearms into it yet. And so that confidence is built, and then we establish with firearms. So that's how I have done it.
Well, that's the epitome of knowing your audience. You're describing it. I mean, men and women are not the same. And I don't mean that from a position of equality or value. That isn't a value statement. What I'm saying is there are certain things that men think about that don't necessarily translate to women. And there are certain things that women think about that don't translate to men. Yeah, we have the English or the common language. We can try and, have this dialogue back and forth. They don't necessarily mean the same things. In full disclosure, I have a custom firearm shop. Okay. So every now and then there'll be a woman or something come in, or a gentleman will bring in his love interest, spouse, whatever else, and say, hey, we want to do this. And then unfortunately, some of them come in with very, very small guns and they want to conceal them. So then the first thing they'll say is, oh, I've got this and I want to put it on in my handbag. I'm like, well, handbag's kind of one of my personal last options, because especially if you're going to take it off and throw it underneath your desk when you get to work, whatever else. I want to kind of keep what you have as self-defense on your person, because if it's easily or quickly separated from you, that's a big problem. Yes. And so, for example, I had one gentleman come in here. He's like, well, can you walk us through? I can't remember what they were, but they were like, he had a little Ruger LCP, and his wife was, well endowed or whatever. And so he's like, I want to choose a bra holster. Can you help us with that? And I'm like, well, I know what they are, but I don't think I'm the person to help you with this. And he's like, well, they're on your shelf over there. I know that, but you're going to have to take her in the back and strap this thing on there, because I'm not doing that. And so, it wasn't inappropriate. He wasn't asking me to do anything that was inappropriate. She didn't have any problem with that. But I'm telling you, that's an aspect of what may happen here that I really don't want to be part of in that way. So You need women to help with, like, would I send my wife or my daughter to Victoria's Secret and have the expectation that a man help them with their whatever
sizing? Yes.
No, I would be like, dude, no, you got, of course I wouldn't be in the store if you paid me, but if I was sitting out there at the bench in the mall waiting, I'd be like, you guys got to go back there. So so I think I'm not saying that women's underwear is the same as range time, but I do understand that there are foundational and personal and professional and sexual relates that move back and forth. And I can see how a female trainer would respond well to female students and vice versa. I can understand that. I haven't given it a lot of thought before now, but I'm glad we're talking about it.
Yeah. And there's women, African-American women, Asian-American women, like those demographics are growing, and women in general are the largest growing demographic in the industry. And so even, I think back to, how old am I? I'm 28. I started working for my dad, full-time at 16 years old, but I started teaching at 21. I got my NRA certification and my CCW the day of my 21st birthday. Like, that's what I did before I went out to the bars and stuff. But I know I scheduled the class accordingly. But I, in teaching these classes and stuff, and even back then, This was 2016, 2017, there really wasn't concealed carry. You know, the idea of concealed carry and concealing firearms or having compact firearms for concealment is almost, I think about 10 years old, because the Glock 43 came out in 2015, I believe. You might have to fact check me on that, but I'm going off of memory. I believe in 2015 is when they came out with that. And then the SIG 365 came out a couple of years after that. So it's all very new. And now every manufacturer has all of these compact firearms with larger capacity of magazines. So you're able to carry the same amount of capacity in a smaller firearm. And then the concealment side, the holster side, making sure that you can wear outfits, like all of this talk and what women have brought to the industry is still very, very new. And so we're kind of seeing right now, I've noticed it the past 2-3 years, I would say, this transition of the industry accepting, hey, we need to adapt. We are a new type of industry now because we have a new demographic. Beforehand, I did a talk at SHOT Show, which SHOT Show, it's a largest gun buying show in just for your listeners, largest gun buying show, but you have to be in the industry, and it's in Vegas in every January. And so I did a speech at SHOT Show explaining the new demographic, women, but also how do we adapt the industry to appeal more to Gen Z and our next generation, because they're not traditionalists, and the industry historically are traditionalists. And so if we just stick to what we know and how the industry has worked, the industry will fail because we haven't adapted to the new demographic of shooter or the potential new demographic of shooter. So even that, like all of it is so new, which is so fun. We're kind of all like kind of pioneers in this industry. I have a brand manager, and then I have a personal assistant who helps me with my brand. And both of them are my target demographic of they're women. One of them is a mother of two, and then the age range, I think they're in their like 25 to 35 age range, and they don't have experience with firearms. And so even those two coming into the industry and kind of learning everything, they're like, you guys are like in your own world, the Second Amendment. You don't follow any rules but your own or the Constitution. Like that is your guys' world, even on like the marketing and the industry side, but also the Second Amendment advocacy side. They're like, you guys don't correlate to any other industry trends. You are like your own little planet. I was like, yeah, well, welcome.
Well, what have you noticed about that age range that you think is significantly different from those before them? I'm curious.
So I did a full speech on this, and then I actually, with Turning Point USA, I speak to the colleges. And last year, my talks, the 2024 to 2025 school year, my talk was fully on. It was titled "Why Your Generation Hates Guns," and I would go and I did all this generational research on what the reasoning was and what the gap was. And basically what happens is it kind of started with like latchkey kids, Gen Xers, and the generation before, of the gap of education and the gap of tradition. And so some of us still grew up that way, and it depends on what the parents were, but parents before, early generations like the silent generation, baby boomers, things like that, they were taught by their parents. They made sure, they had values. Their values were passed down from generation to generation. And so it was never a fear. And then when latchkey kids happened, which was when their parents, it was dual income household, parents would go to work, they would come home, they would be they would be from home from school, and they would be the only ones there. Well, now that generation is now starting to rely on the school systems and other adults to educate. So that is where that gap started in tradition and family tradition, because now whatever the schools are teaching is what the child is going to learn. And then it generationally starts snowballing. And now we start implementing media in general. And then we start implementing bad media, social media, mental health. and all of those things. And the parents have lost control of their children because they've given the control generationally. It's been going on for 30 plus 30, 40 years of they're given control to other adults in the school systems or in sports. And they've given them the cell phone to receive information from other adults on social media or online. And so now they're receiving that information that way, but also from their friends. And now they're creating their own little world. And now we're trying to come in, and I'm starting to see it now, even with Turning Point USA, of like, whoa, no, the parents need to take back control and take ownership of their children and educate them on what these values are, because they obviously are not learning them in school. So I think that's what my findings were when I was doing this whole research project.
Okay. Is it okay if we explore some of that just a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that what I'm going to ask you, I think is a true statement or comes from a foundationally true statement. I don't think that I see some of the younger generations being very apt or enthusiastic about joining. And I mean anything. I don't know if that's been your experience or not. And I'm still trying to figure out maybe why that is. I can see it. I think I can prove it, but I'm not sure that I understand the why. So why wouldn't they join an advocacy group like the Iowa Firearms Coalition? Or why wouldn't they join this organization? Or why wouldn't they say, hey, I want to volunteer at Turning Point USA? So I'm trying to figure out what is there or what is not there that keeps them from being joiners or joining in. Do you know much about that? Have you thought about that much?
Honestly, no. I would say I have seen.
Do you recognize it?
I can recognize that for sure.
Okay.
I think my immediate thought, and again, this isn't research based, but just from the research that I have done, I'm trying to make like a not a guess, but just like a brainstorm of Turning Point USA is doing a really good job with that. Charlie Kirk is doing a really good job with that, of like making it cool to be part of something. So they've done a great job at the colleges doing that. I would say joining anything is because they're part of groups online now. The social media aspect, they are getting connection that way, where prior to, we would join groups or clubs or even sports to be part of a community, but now their community is that random influencer that they follow online. It's not a real community, but that's what they see. And so I think they're getting that community base or that connection through social media and following people and having friends online, versus even when I grew up, it was like, if you want to be part of a community, you have to go out. There was no online community that even was created or that we even thought of, even at my age. And so when we wanted to be in sports or groups, like that is what we did. We were part of clubs. We were very involved. And so when I was leaving high school, college, I feel like it was easy to be part of a group or part of a club in some way, like Iowa, what is it? IFC?
Yeah,
Iowa
the
Firearms
Iowa
Coalition.
Coalition. Yeah, IFC, yes.
Or like any type of Second Amendment foundation. Like, I see the purpose in that. And a lot of these students or a lot of these younger generations also don't care. Their maturity level is a lot lower. And so it's going to be a while before they even care or see, if they ever see the need to join a club like this.
Well, you seem to have escaped the problem. And you said earlier that you were 28, so you're sub 30. How did you manage to do that? Because I've talked with a lot of people that are right exactly in your age range, and they're the way that you described this. There's an immaturity associated with how they speak, how they think, and how they behave. Not all, mind you, but a bunch, and they're not interested in coming into any kind of group atmosphere whatsoever. And so maybe if what you're saying is correct, maybe they're finding their group. Their groups happen to be digital touches rather than physical ones. Maybe that's a foundational problem, or maybe it's a foundational solution. I'm not sure yet.
And they also need to find a group that resonates with them. I would say personally, I don't think a lot of these, even like Second Amendment groups, these groups don't represent me, like my generation. And that's why I started doing this research. That's it's nothing negative against any of these groups. It's just, like I said, we're in this transition where I'm now talking to groups, even like you guys, but I'm talking to groups at gun events and other advocacy groups, and they're reaching out to me saying, hey, like, you represent not only the female side, but also I'm the youngest millennial, basically. I'm like on that cusp of millennial and Gen Z. Yeah. And so they're like, you represent this target audience that we have. How do we approach them? And I think that's another reason why this younger generation or women are not getting into these groups. It's like, I'm not represented. It needs to happen. And so I'm working with groups like that as well. So how I did it, though, I grew up in a gun store. So
yeah. I mean, your influences were different. I understand that, and I can apply that to myself. I think, and I can apply that to my own children. My daughter's 16. Actually, I looked at just the other day. I've got a picture of you and her with her at the Capitol building, because I think the day that you were there, I think my daughter led everybody in the Pledge of Allegiance or something. That was one of her duties. But she was, that was what, 2 years ago, or was it 3? I don't remember.
3.
Okay, so she'd have been 13 then. So, everybody's like, oh, that's so great. I'm like, no, dude. Yes, I'm glad that she did it, but I consider standing up and saying the Pledge of Allegiance in front of a few hundred people in the Capitol Rotunda truly very low-hanging fruit, because you've been saying this every day since you were like 6. So yeah. I'm glad that you did it, but I'm not going to give her a participation ribbon for this, okay? This is expected, but don't tell her that. But I don't know. I think that it would be very good for folks like you if you were able to be able to critique like our social media, our site, maybe some of the things that you could take a look at real quick to see if there was a way that we could better appeal to the younger demographic, because it's very important. I don't say that selfishly, Paige. I'm not wanting that so that they become part of us and we're more powerful, although that would be true. I'm saying this because I want them to fundamentally understand the tremendous need for the Second Amendment, what it truly represents. The fact of the matter is, I've said this before to a lot of people, but I'm telling you, I am completely convinced that the Second Amendment is probably your very best litmus test for the character of any politician. Mm-hmm. So if you ask them about the Second Amendment and they say, I believe in the Second Amendment, and it doesn't end with a period, you got a problem. Because if there's a comma and they say but, and, or something else, and then they finish it off, what they're really saying is no, I actually don't believe in the Second Amendment. Mm-hmm. And if they don't, then what they're saying is I don't trust you, and I don't trust myself, because I can't handle you having a gun. I don't want one, but I want to make darn sure that you don't have it. It's not that I want it from you and I got to take it so I can have it for myself. I want to make sure that you don't have it, because that bothers me. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a mental problem that they've got. I'm not saying it's a mental illness, but it is certainly a really, really poor outlook on your fellow human being. And if that's the case, you do not want that person in a position to make policy or lord over you any method of power. And so when it comes to the Second Amendment, if you can't get that right, I think your character's called into question. And I'll stand by that.
A lot of it, though, Michael, is, I completely agree with you, but a lot of where that is coming from is, like I said, that lack of education. And even these politicians coming in now, firearms weren't part of their life. And so something that I think the firearms industry has completely failed at is they think of like a bridge, and the firearm world and the Second Amendment world, we're all on one side. And it's like, we welcome you over. You got to figure out how to get over. You have to figure out, like, if you ask questions, the Constitution, well, if you don't agree with the Constitution, then don't come over here, but come on over. Mm-hmm. If you like the Second Amendment, you come on over. But we never once have come over in the years on the other side of the bridge and being like, hey, let's have a conversation, and let's let me help you understand, not so much on an extreme level, but let's communicate on the purpose of firearms, and not this like intense, we need this because of XYZ and government overreach. And we have to start at a lower base. All of these people already have a fear around guns. And so then they need a solution. And a lot of the solution is just to get rid of guns, because they just need to do something. They need to feel like they are doing something. And so that's what they do. I mean, for Buffalo, New York, when that shooting happened, I was just talking to Premier Body Armor because of the Minnesota shooting that just happened. I was talking to Premier Body Armor, and I was at Buffalo, New York, speaking for Turning Point USA the week before that shooting happened. And it was just as a reminder, it was in a grocery store, and someone with body armor and a rifle, and it was a targeted attack of a certain demographic of individuals. And he went and it was a mass killing. And so, but New York, because they already had those guns banned that this individual used, they banned body armor because the individual, the shooter, was wearing body armor. And it's like, they had Premier Body Armor, the company who does, like, they do backpack inserts, they're wonderful. They had, elderly women calling in tears. And they're like, why can't I protect myself? Why can't I wear some sort of lightweight body armor when I'm out and about? I'm terrified to go to the grocery store. And they're like, New York banned it because the shooter was wearing it. No other reason. And so it's a lot of this, like, they don't have any education. And so they are trying to do something. They try to act something. And yes, there are politicians who have the agenda of gun control. Completely understand and agree with that. But a lot of it is complete ignorance, and they don't know how. And I think that is the firearms industry side, that we need to go over the bridge and remove the intense talk of the Second Amendment and just kind of level with them. And that's what my approach has been when I speak to these colleges, because I have a lot of people who will show up to the event and want complete gun control because they're terrified. And so my talks are always very they're never like gotcha moments. We just have a discussion of, okay, you want magazine capacity restrictions, or you want a gun ban. Like, the Minnesota shooting is going to be a big talk this semester because of what's happening. Let's talk about that, and like let's walk through this. And we do, and we have a discussion. I'm like, hey, let's talk as if like we're going to go through with what you would like to do, a total gun ban or magazine capacity ban, something to restrict this. Let's go over the pros and cons. And I just talk with them about it, and by the end they're like, oh, I didn't know that, because social media or the media in general doesn't talk about that. I'm like, exactly. But that's why I'm here. And I tell them, look, it's not my job to tell you how to think, because you are an American and you are able to think whatever you want, right? You are a free thinker. However, you just haven't been told all the information, and that's why I'm here. And so I give it that approach, and I've seen it, at least in my experience, be more positive, rather than me going up and doing speeches and saying, if you don't agree with the Second Amendment wholeheartedly, then you are out. And I think that's where that generational gap, like, we almost have to come down to their level. I don't want to say come down, but just meet them where we don't normally meet. We just expect them to come over. You figure it out. Whenever you have an event, you were robbed, you have a near, a scary experience, and now you feel like you need to protect yourself, come on over. And I think it's our job now to meet them and bring them over that way.
I think that's smart. I think that's wise. My good buddy Dave Halbrook always says, hunt where the ducks are. He's like, we need to be where they are. And that means physically or metaphysically. Okay, if that's at the library, fine. If that's online, fine. But we need to be there in terms of intellect's not the right word, but we need to be there in terms of being genuine and honest. I mean, do you think it makes a difference because you look like you and I look like me, that you have more credibility because you're younger and female? Do you think that makes a difference or not?
Honestly, yeah.
Maybe they don't want to hear Santa Claus tell them stuff. I mean, I don't know.
Well, they just need to feel they need to feel they need to have some sort of connection. So whether that's a you're a father and you're speaking to another father, whether that's, you know, you are speaking to a younger crowd and then you say like, hey, look, I'm a dad and I have kids your age. Like now you've made that connection. So I don't think it at face value, I'm gonna say, yeah, it's easier when I'm younger, closer to their generation, and I'm a female. I don't have to establish myself as much of a connection. I still do, but if you were talking, maybe if I'm talking to an older crowd, now how can I make that connection before implementing all of the facts and all of the information, all the meat of that argument? How can I make that connection with the group that I'm talking to, knowing your audience? So I feel like we still can do that. I'm not saying, well, because you look like the way that you are, you can't talk to the younger generation. You just have to make a connection with them in some way before you do it.
Okay, I follow. All right.
Yeah.
So you were talking about body armor and some of those things before. I want to do this. We work this into every Warrior Wednesday because it's very important. We want people to go to iowafc.org, which is Iowa Firearms Coalition's website. We want them to check out membership. We want them to join, but we also want to show them that our trusted partners that we have, which are basically the people that we're in league with that help support us, they offer discounts and all kinds of tangible goods and services for members so that we can add value to our membership. So I want to make sure that I plug that a little bit and let people understand that that's very important and that these retailers have given back something for you. It's very important. With that, I'd like to ask you about your particular product here. Is that okay if we talk about that?
Yeah.
Okay. So you have you know what? You explain it. You know your product better than I do. Walk us through that.
Okay, so this is my concealed carry belt bag, is what we called it. And I partnered with Marsupial Gear, who is, I mean, they are like a leader in soft goods in the hunting world. They're American made. They're lovely. Their whole manufacturing facility is in Phoenix, Arizona. But they are, I mean, they're all over the country now. They're like the go-to. Joe Rogan wears all their stuff. Massive, amazing company. So they reached out to me. We're good friends. And they asked me to create a fanny pack because fanny packs are getting popular. And I was like, this is actually perfect timing because I was carrying a concealed carry fanny pack at the time and it was breaking and it was expensive. And I was like, this is no good. Additional to that, I would have women reach out to me and say, hey, I'm carrying my gun in my Lululemon fanny pack, which is a popular, everyone's carrying the Lululemon fanny packs, but they're just throwing a gun in there. So unsafe. Or if the bag opens and they're reaching for their wallet, the gun can fall out. And I was like, this is not okay. So I designed this belt bag. And then the holster is by Eclipse Holsters. They're out of Virginia. Again, they're family owned, women owned, amazing company. But I have the bag here also. So basically I designed it I didn't want it to look like a tactical bag. I wanted to reach that audience of male and female, obviously mostly women, of, hey, they're walking their kids. They don't want it to look like they're carrying a tactical bag in any way. They want it to match their lifestyle, but I needed them to have a safer option. So this is a off-body carry, is technically what it's called. It's in the category of purse, which I am not pro purse carry, but this is carried more in a crossbody form or around your waist. But the gun is in a separate pocket, as you can see in this picture. But the gun is in a separate pocket. It's Velcro. And so that entire holster has a very strong Velcro backing where you can actually remove the entire holster itself. Or when you draw, the holster stays in place. Also, when you open the bag up, like it is in this photo, but if you're just listening, the whole bag opens up like a book. And the holster stays in place, the gun stays in place. You close that pocket, and then there's an additional front pocket that is just like call it an admin pocket, right? Like you've got credit cards, lip gloss, car keys, whatever. It comes in small and large, or regular and large. So the regular can fit up to about a Glock 43X, I would say, SIG 365 XL. And then the large bag will carry more like Glock 19, FN 509, something of that. The P320 carry, the little bit smaller one will carry something like that. So that is what I've created, and it's done a lot better than what we ever imagined. It's filling that gap is what we did.
I don't suppose you're carrying at the moment.
Well, I'm home, but my bag is right here.
Are you able, is it putting you on the spot to, okay, there are a lot of people who are listening to this that are going to go to your website and look, and they're going to see these things, okay? But for the people watching, they're getting an idea what this looks like, but they probably don't actually know. Are you able to demonstrate that? Yeah, I mean, can you do that?
Let me see if I can. I do have a video and I can link it, but I do have a video of me drawing and giving pro tips on my Instagram. And I posted that last week. And that's very clear. So that'd probably be better.
Okay, I will put that link in our blog and send that out to you. I just didn't know if you stood up in frame of the camera, you could show how the how it lays in deployment or whatever else. I didn't know if that was possible.
Let me see if I can.
Okay.
I just went on a walk with it this morning, so it's sized around my waist. But all you do is kind of expand the belt.
Okay.
So I wrap it around. My husband wears the larger one, and he carries it around his waist. Let me see if I can bring this down. Can you see that okay?
Yep. So it's just crossbody. This is the standard Lululemon type of special. My daughter, my wife, everybody has these.
So we didn't want any logos. We have the marsupial tab, but I didn't want any logos, anything in front. I wanted it to be very clean and very sleek. So the front pocket is going to just be admin. I've got a ton of receipts in here, my car key, things like that. So nice, easy pocket. But then that way you're able to shop and do things without having to get to your firearm. And then your gun is going to be right there. So Eclipse Holsters also has the cutest pattern. So you can get male or female patterns. I have chickens right now.
Yeah, I love chickens. Why not, man? They're tasty.
Exactly, right. And so then what is nice also, so this stays obviously, and then I can zip it up. But I actually go to the airport with my bag as well. And so when I travel with my gun, all I have to do, obviously unload the firearm. But if I'm flying with it, I just unvelcro the entire gun. And now it's just a standard belt bag. So if you are going to a spot where you can't carry it, I had to go to a government office where I had to remove my firearm. So I put it safely, locked it in my car. And then I don't have to unload my entire bag with my wallet and stuff. I can just then put it back in place when I'm ready and then close it back up.
Fantastic. So you just stick that in your check luggage and off you go.
Yeah. And I walk through the airport with my bag as long as obviously the firearm is out. I check it properly. But then I can still wear my bag. And then when I get to my destination, all I have to do is load my gun and put the holster back in.
Fantastic. That's very cool. I don't consider myself a fanny pack guy, but maybe I should be. Maybe that's the problem.
I will say I didn't have intention. We were trying to focus more on women, and then we came out with a larger size bag. And because men were like, hey, I want to carry this, but I need more room and it just looks too small on me. And so we came out with a larger size as well. And it is done. I was watching a UFC fight last year and I freaked out and had my husband pause it because Joe Rogan was commentating and my bag was sitting on the desk. And I was like, that's my bag.
Wow. So that's big. That's very cool. That's very cool.
Yeah, it's fun. It's definitely filled a void.
Well, you and your husband, the people that are probably listening to this, or some anyway, understand Colonel Cooper's awareness chart, right? And we're looking around and we notice almost everybody that we see is in white. They're not paying any attention to what's going on. They're going, they don't pay any attention at all. But every now and then you run across a guy in yellow and you're like, probably a concealed carry guy, or probably a cop, maybe Army. You never know, but you can kind of tell, But I will tell you one thing, and I thought it was interesting. You said there wasn't any Velcro on the outside or patches or logos or anything. You can smell the tactical bag a mile away. When you're on vacation or out and about running around and there's a guy walking around with OD green strapped to his back with Molly straps all over it, there's no question what's going on there. I mean, it would be rare that it didn't have something which appealed to me on the inside, which is fine, but it is a tremendous red flag, not in that it's a bad thing, but it says this is who I am and this is what I'm about. And I think it's better a lot of times if you don't bring any of that extra attention to yourself.
Well, exactly. That's the reason why we always talk about, concealed carry, because you don't want to bring that attention to yourself. But if you're carrying a bag that screams, I conceal carry, then you might as well be open carrying. And so, these women will have guns in their bags because their husband put them in, or they didn't have an option. They don't feel comfortable with carrying it on their body just yet. That's why I have the bag. I want them to feel comfortable with carrying around their kids, and I want them to have a gun on them safely. So this is kind of a segue of that, of let's do this. And then I've had women be like, okay, I've been carrying with the fanny pack. I'm ready to carry it on my body. Like, yes, that is what we want. We just have to create stepping stones for them. But yeah. I don't want a bag that says like, I carry a gun. It's counterintuitive.
Yeah. No, I agree. And you've been talking about the different ways that you set up a foundational relate to female students as a female yourself. And the truth of the matter is, again, men and women aren't the same. We're not typically sized and shaped the same. So the method of carry for some women is going to be far different than some men. It's going to be tougher. And just by the clothes they wear, I can tell you, I mean, I don't know. My daughter's in I don't even know what they're called. It's stretch pants or whatever else
leggings.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever. She's in leggings at any given moment, walking around in a tank top. I'm like, well, good luck concealing anything like that. That's almost impossible. It's not impossible, but it's close. So women choosing to wear different outfits means that you have different considerations for how you're going to be armed. And I want women to be armed. I want you to be able to protect yourself. I want you to have that choice. Nobody should be dictating for you that you can't do that. Now, I don't want you to have to wear a pair of bibs or a gunny sack or something to conceal this firearm. So you've got options, and I appreciate that illumination. Thank you for that.
Yeah, my Instagram. So my Instagram is some chick who shoots, and that's what I do mostly on my social media. A lot of people are, I teach, but my main social media is, the purpose of it is to, again, like my whole passion and job is to, like I've been talking about, is reaching, going and getting my audience, rather than what the industry has done of like, come on over when you're ready. So I've tried to soften that approach of concealed carry. And so my social media is solely like get ready with me videos, where I'm putting different girly outfits on, fall inspo, and then I'm showing you how I would carry on my body that day with that given outfit. And so not only am I softening it where it's like, hey, I can watch, I want to see what she's carrying, or I want to see what this outfit turns out, because I want this outfit as well. So there's that without even them meeting me, there's that connection that I've built. But then towards the end, I'm like, okay, I'm going to put a gun on and I show you how I conceal. And so I've had tons of women reach out to me of like, you made it more approachable for me to be able to carry and not have to change my entire wardrobe, because I don't want to sacrifice my wardrobe and my fashion for carry. Some people will argue against that, but let's just be honest. If they're not going to do it, let's figure out a way for you to work in, with the fashion that you have. Let's make it work for you. I always say, let's make the gun work for you and not you work for the gun.
All right. So let's see here. I'm trying to add this to the stage. So this is, and I have spent some time on your Instagram channel, and there's a lot of stuff going on there. You got a couple 100,000 followers. I hope that it's soon double that, because it ought to be. But there truly has been, and in full disclosure, I haven't gone through all of it because you've
Yeah.
got a lot of content, a lot of stuff to digest. But as I zip down through here, there's something for everybody at any given moment. And there's a lot of focus on the things that people truly need to be considering when you're going to carry. And this is, we've had guests on here. I've had SEAL team members on here before. I had Daniel Corbett was here. He was SEAL team 5, 6, 17. I mean, I'm not saying he's a killing machine, but I think that it would be safe to say that he was a killing machine, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So he's very familiar with all these things. But I guarantee you, Daniel Corbett, there was a time when he wasn't familiar with a firearm. Guarantee it. And so everybody has this learning curve. I myself had this learning curve. People come to me, oh, Michael, you were probably born with a gun. No, dude. My family didn't really do much of that, a little bit of hunting here and there and that kind of stuff, but it wasn't really a focus. This is something that came later in life for me. And when I started carrying, I was super apprehensive. I kind of needed to warm up to it. I truly did. Because I didn't want to make a mistake. I didn't know if my gun was showing, or maybe this thing's too heavy. What if I got to run very far or something? Will my pants fall down? You know what I mean? Just you laugh, but I mean, it's stuff that you got to think about. So I like that you have tons and tons of examples that walk through the everyday concerns that we're all going to have, especially women and people starting for the first time. So definitely want to look at this resource, and that's somechickWhoshoots.com, but certainly Some Chick Who Shoots on Instagram. Now, you mentioned, Paige, about rebranding and some of that other stuff.
Yes.
Is this going to fundamentally change, or are we going to need to look for something different in the future?
Nope. I'll still be, I can't give away too much, but basically what I've done is, before I forget also, Michael, what you just said, how we've been talking about like, just connecting with your audience and stuff like that. I would have never known that about you if you said, I was apprehensive about guns and like, is it going to fall off and all these things. Like, that's such a good way to connect and be like, oh, like I would say it is a very common assumption if we look at you and say, oh, he's probably born with a gun or he was born hunting. And so even sharing that anecdote or that little testimony, like that's so helpful for someone to be like, oh, he is just like me, even though we don't look the same, like he is just like me. We have the same concerns. So anyways, I love that. But my social media,
No, go ahead, please.
My social media, we are just doing a rebrand. And the reason why is because I started this social media about 7 years ago. And I was Some Chick Who Shoots, like I said in the beginning. I started it just because I didn't want my name in the industry, but I also kind of I underestimated myself. I was young in the industry. I didn't want to be looked at as I don't like the term gun bunny, but I wanted to make sure that I was seen as a professional in this industry. And I was starting, even though I had, the backing of my dad's range and their reputation, I didn't want to ruin that reputation in any way. I didn't want, them to look at Shooter's World and be like, oh, Shooter's World's daughter is just like on social media and she's spreading bad information. She doesn't know what she's talking about, or she is exposing her body in any way like that. Those were my biggest concerns. And so how I branded Some Chick was, I just thought, okay, if I were to introduce myself, how am I going to do this? And I would say, well, I'm just a girl who shoots. Like I'm just some chick who shoots, which is kind of a derogatory term. And I used it kind of as ammunition for my own brand. But my now 7 years later, I'm now a leader in this industry. I'm looked at and people come to me for leadership and guidance and counsel in this industry. Now I'm a public speaker for this industry. And so my name, my brand, it just doesn't, I've outgrown it. I've matured a lot more. I've grown in this career. And so I just want my brand to reflect that. So starting in October, you'll see the transition. My content will still be the same. Just some things will change to just reflect who I am now.
We all do that. And
Yeah.
I think that we should. I remember in a shop that's my size, which is very small, you have an opportunity for a lot of very intimate discussions. And so, you had a reflection of me, or you had a comment about how I started my apprehension. I can remember carrying a SIG 226 with no magazine in it the first time, and just up to my local grocery store in a town of 1,000 people, right? Sweatshirt pulled over, whatever else, and an outside the waistband, some sort of Black Hawk eyes, I think. Anyway, and I'm super, super nervous. Just making sure that, do I have this belt cinched up enough? Is this going to be a problem? And I can remember going to a deli and sitting down, and I kept fidgeting and sticking this sweatshirt over it to make sure it was over. And you know what I ended up doing? I ended up catching the eye of some soccer mom that was staring me down. Man, she was like, I see what you're doing. I see what you're fumbling with. And I thought, all I had to do was sit down. That's all I had to do. But instead, I'm monkeying around with this thing. I drew a lot of attention to the wrong place. And my concealment is no more, at least not for some people. So there are learning curves we all go through. But I mention this to say we need the help. We need the counseling. And we all do these things for the first time. And if you can get a sage, so to speak, to come alongside you and say, listen, Padawan, it's okay. And these are going to be probably some of your experiences. This is maybe how to mitigate those things. Let's talk about that. That's what we need. We're going to be able to lend ourselves to others in ways that matter. And so I really appreciate that about what you're saying. I think we need more of it. And not the kind where we take somebody out to the range that's never fired before a weapon, and then hand them a Smith & Wesson 500 revolver, and then step back with our arms crossed, waiting to laugh at them. We make jokes about that, but frankly, that's the dumbest thing that you could probably do for a new shooter. You may turn them off for life. So that's just stupid. Let's stop doing that.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyway, we've touched on some of the topics that I wanted. Is there anything that's outstanding that we need to go over? Because I want to make sure you're able to relay over fully what Some Chick Who Shoots has to offer.
No, I feel good. I'm a full-time instructor now. So I train women. I focus on I'm Arizona, Vegas, Texas are my main locations. Definitely Arizona, Phoenix. I live in Tucson, Arizona now. But yeah, I do that, the social media side, and then the gun advocacy side as well with Turning Point USA. So I'll travel to schools. My social media will have dates and locations. Those should be pinned down, I believe, by next week when I start my school speaking schedule. And I believe that starts in the beginning of October as well. So if I'm in the area near you or something, come see me speak.
Fantastic. We'll do that. Again, thank you. So we've got Paige Roux, somechickWhoShoots.com. There are links at the bottom of that webpage to the social media, whatever else. Definitely a lot of activity going on Instagram, among other places too. So thank you for the time today. Thank you for showing the holster. Thank you for developing it and helping in the places that you need to help. And I sense that this won't be the only thing that you bring to the table. So I'm looking forward to more.
Thank you. Me too.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael.